What's cracking, people? Above the booth. I know we've been going for a while, so obviously things have happened. COVID happened. I had a baby. Craziness. So obviously we can't bring you those live games anymore at this point. Not hopefully at the end of the year, or if not next year. We'll see. We're not done with that. But in the meantime, we're going to pivot here and give you kind of a nightly recap of the NBA games. Give you a little bit more flavor and strictly talk hoops and, not do any fake arguments or force any topics. I want to cater to people like me who just care strictly about the hoops and want to get a little bit deeper insight into the games, just because we all live in busy lives. We miss some games. Tell me what the hell happened. Just tell me what you guys think. We're going to try this for now and, hopefully it grows into something. All right, see you.
Hello again and welcome to another edition of Above the Booth. I'm here with my homie Pari, and we're here giving you an unfiltered, flavorful broadcast and recap of some of tonight's games around the association. Tonight we have a lovely slate of games for you, and I'm going to start it off with the Lakers being hosted by the Milwaukee Bucks at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. A potential 2021 NBA Finals preview. This game features two teams coming off losses on Monday night for the Lakers losing to the Warriors at home at the Staples Center, and for the Bucks losing to the Nets by 2 points on Monday. The Lakers, of course, being our defending NBA champions from the 2020 season in the lovely bubble. However, the Bucks have had one of the best home records over the last two seasons at 69 and 14, so something's got to give. Right from the tip-off, though, the Bucks would go right down low with Giannis being guarded by Anthony Davis in the paint, and Giannis overpowering him to the hole and getting that bucket and the boo-boo. Unfortunately, the Lakers would not show much resistance in the paint to the Bucks this game, and this would be a sign of things to come. However, Giannis's free throw percentage this season has been lackluster, to say the least. At 59%, he is really struggling from there, down about 12% from his career average at 71.8. I really hope Giannis can find the stride from the charity stripe, because it's just a pretty bad look for a league MVP to be shooting that poorly from on free throws. I don't know why they don't go to the hack of Giannis strategy at this point. But then again, Shaq won plenty of MVPs shooting around that number, so I guess it's not too bad if you're 7 foot. Although the Bucks would start out very nice, LeBron would not be outdone. He and AD would be very aggressive in the paint, forcing the Bucks to respect their drives as well as the low post, and establishing that inside presence would be detrimental to the Bucks defense. LeBron and AD, of course, are always matchup problems for anyone who faces them, but fans were treated to an extra special treat with AD and Giannis going at it at both ends of the floor. The Lakers would get to the free throw line early and often, and they would hit them when they got there. However, their minimal defensive resistance would have them down by 4 at the break, 33-29. The Bucks established their fast break game. Their transition points were early and easy opportunities for them, and they were stacking up the points in the paint. The Lakers really did, especially considering they have Anthony Davis, they weren't showing much defensive presence in there, at least in the first quarter. In the second quarter, the Lakers would respond well. Coming out with some hot shooting, LeBron would start heating up from three, and this would be a sign of many things to come. Seen splashing it in from deep here. And in case you thought that was a fluke, here's another one. Brook Lopez would respond with 8 points in this quarter on 2 dunks and a three-pointer of his own, but it would not be enough. AD, after establishing his own inside presence early, AD would find LeBron cutting to the basket and taking flight. God, he just makes it look so easy. Then KCP would get going. After hitting from downtown once in the first quarter, the third best three-point shooter in the association by percentage, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, would make the Bucks pay for leaving him open with 2 trays in the final minute, including this running three-pointer to close the half, erasing a first quarter deficit and putting the Lakers up by 6 at halftime. While the Bucks looked good early getting in the paint and on the fast break for easy buckets, the Lakers tightened up in the second quarter, and without easier opportunities for the Bucks, their offense began to stagnate, while the Lakers were just hitting their stride. KCP was getting loose, as well as LeBron from three-pointers, and if the Lakers are hitting three-pointers, it's pretty tough to defend them, whether you have Giannis or not. The Lakers would cancel out the Bucks' major points in the paint advantage by hitting from three. Starting up the third quarter, which would be the lowest scoring session of the affair, both defenses were getting into it. In response, Chris Middleton had to get creative with this nifty bounce pass under LeBron's legs for the Jrue Holiday layup. They don't get much easier than that. Although the Bucks made a 7-0 run at the beginning of the half, the Lakers would answer by going inside to Davis for mismatches. And after establishing that once again, he would go back outside to, you guessed it, KCP for three. Marc Gasol here with the offensive board and assist to Kentavious. And then LeBron hits Caldwell Pope in the corner for the three, high percentage shot, and the quarter would end with the Lakers leading by 5, 86-81. In the fourth quarter, though, the Bucks would not go quietly into that good night. On the backs of their big three, Giannis, Middleton, and Jrue Holiday, the Bucks would cut the lead to 2 points with 3 minutes left in the game. Then, you guessed it, KCP would hit another three, giving him 7 total for the game and 23 points overall. And because no Lakers highlight package is complete without an appearance by the GOAT himself, Alex Caruso. Remember how I said KCP is third in the league in three-point percentage? Say hello to the man ranked number 2 in that category. That's right, do it to him, Alex. Here he is hitting his own three-pointer in clutch time, and then LeBron would follow with his own three-pointer. And then, special for the fans who were waiting till the end of this one, assisted by that man, Alex Caruso, Bron does what he does best, flying high for the slam. The game would end 113-106, LeBron flexing his muscles for 6 three-pointers on 6 of 10 shooting from downtown, with 34 points total and on 13 of 25 shooting, and 8 assists to go along with it. This was a season high in points for LeBron so far. I mentioned KCP and his 7 threes already with 23 points, and Anthony Davis would get jiggy to the tune of 18 points, 9 boards, and 6 assists because he was feeling generous. Although after the game he did say he felt like he sucks right now, I think he's putting in a lot of work out there, and his aggressiveness inside is opening up a lot of what the Lakers are getting outside. The Lakers refused to lose 2 in a row this season after losing to the Warriors on Monday, and as I mentioned before, they canceled out a large points in the paint advantage for the Bucks by being on fire from 3. The Lakers outscored the Bucks from downtown by 30 points. Some Bucks notables on the game: the Greek Freak with 25 points and 12 boards, and unfortunately the 9 turnovers would prove costly. Jrue Holiday showing nice and fitting in well in Milwaukee with 22 points and 7 assists, and Chris Middleton would round it out with 20 points, 5 boards, and 7 assists. Their big three put in 67 points for them. They're going to need to see a little bit more from their bench and their secondary players if they want to beat a team like the Lakers, especially over a 7-game series. They're going to need a couple of those other players to step up for. Overall, it's a great game for the Lakers. The Milwaukee Bucks are not defending the three-pointer as well, and it wasn't just an issue this game. That's been an issue the last couple games for them. Let's face it, the Bucks' half-court offense isn't great, but that's been a problem for them for like the last 2 years at this point. And if you set up that wall to slow down Giannis and slow down the transition game, their offense kind of grinds to a little bit of a halt. And we saw it in the first quarter. They were getting those points. They had a lead. The rest of the game, those points didn't come so easily, and especially in the second half, you saw a little bit more isolation. I think that's what Jrue Holiday was brought there to help alleviate some of the ball handling and play creation, which he does do and help with. But unfortunately tonight it was not enough. We hope to see a little bit more from the Bucks going forward. And for the Lakers, solid win. I would like to see a little bit better defense coming out of them, especially when it comes to the paint points. I think a different team may make them pay a little bit more for that, especially if they have some outside shooting to follow up the inside presence that they established. But good win for the Lakers. Moving on, this was their first game this was game 1 of a 7-game road trip, and the Lakers are 8-0 away from home this season, so let's hope they keep the streak alive.
And that wraps it up for our first game of the night with the Lakers-Bucks. I'll send it over to Paris for our second game of the night with the Warriors and the Knicks.
What's going on? Back. It's been a minute. It's been about a year. Knicks Warriors. New York Knicks. Surprisingly competitive New York Knicks. Top 10 in defense New York Knicks. Went to San Francisco and beat up on the Golden State Warriors, who are still trying to gel with their new roster. Both teams coming off a 2-game winning streak. Turns out Golden State ends today, or the 21st, and the Knicks extended their winning streak to 3 games. Whoop, whoop. Shout out to the Knicks fans. I know y'all hype about that. Y'all get hype about every goddamn thing the Knicks do. Before we get into it, I want to list off the injuries. Austin Rivers is out. He has a sore Achilles. Frank Ntilikina, he's out. He's been out for a minute with sprained knee. Get back, get healthy, dude. Love to see you out there. But Alec Burks is back, and we know what he brings. Buckets. So he's a good energy booster for the Knicks for the first 4 games or so. I think he was averaged 20 points or something stupid like that. But he had a pretty good game. But before we get into that, let's talk about the game on an overall aspect. And it was not pretty. From jump, I mean, the defensive prowess of the Knicks pretty much strangled Golden State's offense. Yeah, the Golden State it was not pretty. And Golden State's one of the fastest teams in the league. I think they're top 5 in terms of pace and possessions a game. The Knicks are the slowest team out of all of the NBA. Why is that, you ask? Tom Thibodeau. Historically, he's been a slow coach. He likes a slow pace. He wants to grind you out. Look back at the old Chicago Bulls with Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah. They were the same damn way, just grinding you out. But yeah, they're damn near one of the best defenses in the league. They're number 1 in opponent points per game. They're number 1 in an opponent's field goal percentage, and they're number 1 in opponent's 3-point percentage. From quarter 1, Q1, the Knicks came out hot. Reggie Bullock hit 3 threes. Julius Randle hit him off with a couple assists. And he's looking really spicy in terms of dishing out to the team. I mean, a lot of people mention Jokic in terms of a big man passing well, and of course I think he leads the league in assists. But Julius Randle is doing his thing too when it comes to assists. So keep an eye out for him, and he has some All-Star aspirations, and I think he might get his All-Star nod this year. But yeah, quarter 1 they dropped 40 points. The Warriors only dropped 25, which isn't typically bad, but shit, 40 points. I mean, that's a hell of a first quarter. Quarter 2, GS got off to a little bit better start. They closed the gap a little bit. Andrew Wiggins got a little loose, and good for Wiggins. He's not looking as the typical settle for mid-range jumpers, and he's getting to the rack. He had a couple and ones in the game, and Steve Kerr's using some good actions on him. I saw him come off a couple curls, him downhill, and his bounce is pretty much damn near unstoppable. You're either going to foul him or he's going to get a layup or a dunk. Now, a peculiar thing happened in the quarter 2. Draymond Green got ejected. Now, late quarter 1, he got his first tech for yapping to the ref. Typical Draymond, setting the tone, whatever he typically does. Now, quarter 2, he's on their own offense. He's trying to get the ball to Wiseman in the deep post. Wiseman doesn't do a good job at sealing his man, so his man gets into the passing lane and knocks the ball out, and that's Draymond's turnover. Now, on their way back to retreat into defense, he yells at Wiseman, probably calls him some kind of name. Behind Wiseman is the ref. The ref interprets as though he's saying that to the ref. This ref is the youngest ref in the NBA, so he's still kind of green. So he interprets that Draymond's talking to him, gives him a tech, second tech, you get kicked out the game. Now, mind you, Draymond is an important key, a stable person on that team. He's the captain of the team. He's not getting you buckets like Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, but he is the defensive captain in terms of he's guarding 1 through 5. He's pretty much the quarterback of the defense. He's also making decisions on offense and whipping the ball left and right and pretty much calling every damn near play. So losing him was a big detriment to them. And Julius Randle definitely was licking his chops now that he no longer had to be defended by Draymond Green. And he's having actually a career year right now. I think he's every single main statistic, he's having the highest he's ever had in his career. So shout out to him, and hopefully gets that All-Star nod. Now at the half, after GS had a little bit of run, at the half, I think the Knicks led by 6 or so. But Q3, the Knicks got loose. RJ Barrett, he got loose. Tibbs kept running him in this action where Peyton would give him a dribble handoff at the top of the key, and he would come off in motion, his man trailing him, and Mitch Robinson's setting a high screen. So now it's just Mitch Robinson, the center, whoever's guarding Mitch Robinson, and RJ Barrett on a 2-on-1 to the basket. what the hell are you going to do? RJ can throw it as high as he wants. Mitch Robinson can catch that from the top of the backboard, bang that, lay it up, whatever he needs to do. And RJ Barrett going to his left hand. Again, the pick was always set on the defender's right side, the RJ's left hand, which is his strong hand. He's money from the left hand. You know, floaters, mid-range, layups, dunk, 6'9" going downhill. He's a big force. But yeah, they ran that play maybe 10 times, in the second half, and they probably had a completion percentage like 80%, something stupid like that. Actually, let's cut to here's a little clip of the montage of that play I'm talking about. Now notice Steph Curry on one of those doesn't want nothing to do with helping Mitch Robinson. That's his responsibility in the weak side corner for him to come down and try to draw offensive foul or try to block it. Being he's so tiny, he should try to draw offensive foul, but he don't want to be in those posters. He gonna get banged on. Trust that. Quarter three, the Knicks just kind of took over. And quarter four was pretty much a wash. Fourth quarter, it was garbage time. About 3 minutes left in the game. The Stars didn't even play like the last half of the quarter. It was pretty much a wash. Announcers were saying that Golden State was probably tired from the night before the Spurs, but I don't know. I think it's more of a gel thing rather than them being tired. Though I will say Steph Curry did look tired. He was on his knees a few times, kind of went benched over and, probably sucking wind. But I think to get blown out by 14 points turns out to be, or 15 points, I think that was a little bit deeper rooted in their DNA as a basketball team. But yeah, hopefully they get it together. I think we'll be seeing them in the playoffs nonetheless. They'll get it together with, that 2-time MVP, I think it is at this point. But I think the Knicks are also going to make the playoffs, man. They're pretty fun to watch now. So, stay tuned with them. But to get into the stats, RJ had a career high in points. Actually, it was 28, I think it was, and his career high previously was 27. Randall damn near got a triple-double. I think he needed 1 assist. Bullock hit 4 out of 5 threes. 80% from threes, bonkers. Noel actually provided 10 boards off the bench and 4 blocks, which is hell of a time off the bench. Alec Burks, he brings buckets, he brings energy. He was doing his thing. Robinson, I'm really impressed with him, man. I've become a fan of him. 18 points, 2 blocks. I think he averages like a block and a half. 18 points. That roll to the basket is damn near like DeAndre Jordan level of 2012, 2014, whatever year that was. Now on the Warriors side, not so diverse. They only had 4 people in double figures, whereas the Knicks had 6. Steph got his buckets, 30 points, hit 5 threes. Andrew Wiggins did okay, 17 points, which is around his average. 9 rebounds, which is pretty good actually for Andrew Wiggins. He doesn't tend to be a good rebounder. Oubre, man, I don't know what's going on. There must be some kind of comfort thing. He had another bad night, and he's having a really bad season compared to his. We thought he was going to have a breakout season because he did so well last season. Shot 2 for 11, missed all his threes. I think he shot 4 of them, missed all of them. Now, he is obviously way better slashing to the basket, getting to the cup. But Golden State is going to need him to definitely at least hit 30% of his threes or something. Something's not meshing well with him, and it looks more of a mental thing rather than anything physical because he's got as much bounce as he's ever had. So we hope you get better. Wiseman, rookie, really impressive. Probably going to be in the finalists for Rookie of the Year. 15 points, 8 rebounds. But he didn't have any blocks, which is kind of weird. 7 foot, you would think maybe he had a block or two, and he's stupid athletic, so maybe it's a timing thing, maybe it's a position thing. I don't know. He'll figure it out. He hit, I think 5 out of 6 free throws. Really good for a 7-footer. On the team level, the big differences there were the field goal percentage. The Knicks had 46%. The Warriors had 38%, 8 percentage point difference. Even bigger margin is the 3-point percentage. The Knicks had 46% for 3, which is red hot in terms of averages, and the Warriors only had 24%, which is kind of crazy when you have Steph Curry on your team. So yeah, big margin there in terms of 3-point percentage. Everything else was pretty much even. Rebounds. Rebounds was a pretty sizable margin, 6 rebounds. The Knicks had 61 rebounds compared to Warriors 55 rebounds, so 6 rebounds more. Warriors obviously a smaller team compared to the Knicks. Knicks is a bigger team, so they were obviously going to rebound better, especially without Draymond. So hopefully Draymond stop getting kicked out, stop yelling at James Wiseman. And then lastly, blocks. Again, bigger team, so obviously they're going to get more blocks. 9 blocks compared to 3 blocks. The Warriors, I think Andrew Wiggins maybe had two of those. But yeah, those are the big differentials in terms of the team stats that really stuck out to me. 15-point margin. Yeah, hopefully we get to see more of the Knicks on the national level, and the Warriors kind of get it together, because Steph Curry is still hell of a fun to watch. Next for the Knicks, they have the Kings today, the 22nd. And the Warriors have the Jazz on Saturday. Both the Knicks and the Warriors are underdogs in those games, so we'll see what happens there. But that's pretty much a wrap.
And for our final game of the evening, the Utah Jazz hosted the New Orleans Pelicans in Salt Lake City for the second game of a two-piece set between these two teams. The Jazz won the first meeting between the two on Tuesday night by 16 points, and they are obviously the more informed team at the moment. The Jazz come into the game with a 6-game winning streak and boasting a top 10 offense and defense in terms of efficiency. The Pelicans come into this game with a lot of high draft picks, a lot of talent, unfortunately not much consistency to speak of. While they can get hot, they have had some issues keeping that consistency during the year and can go pretty cold, especially on offense. And while their defense at times is rugged, it's also kind of a sieve at times as well. But this game would see both teams open up the first frame with fast starts. The Pelicans would get going early and often with transition and picking up the pace, being pushed especially by their point guard and their big name players, Lonzo Ball, Zion Williamson, and of course even Eric Bledsoe got in there pushing the pace. It seems like Van Gundy was really wanting to let his young guns get out there and run. Once Donovan Mitchell was nice and warmed up, here he breaks off Nickeil Alexander-Walker and gets the drop-off assist to Derek Favors. Lovely play from Donovan Mitchell. He's one of my favorite players, honestly, in the NBA right now. I'm hoping that he can carry the Jazz a little further in the playoffs this year. JJ Redick, who has had a tough start to his season, is seen alley-ooping to Zion Williamson from about half court. Great pass, but even a better finish from Zion to compose himself in there and finish strongly. The first quarter would end with the Pelicans actually up 12 in this one. They really came out hot. They were drilling three-pointers, which is contrary to what they've done this season. By making 8 three-pointers, it was shocking to everybody who was watching there. But yeah, it put them up 12. It put them up 12 in the first frame. They made 14. They made 15 baskets and had 14 assists on those 15 made baskets. So they were passing the ball, they were getting it moving. The ball had energy, as some of these older NBA coaches like to say. It was looking really good for the Pelicans early on. And those 43 points scored by the Pelicans would be the most they've scored in a quarter this season, ending the quarter up 43-31 on the Jazz. In the second quarter, though, the Donovan Mitchell show would really get rolling as Brandon Ingram would fade a little bit after both stars started off hot. We expected the Jazz to hit some threes today, and they would oblige. And we expected the Jazz to shoot well because they are third in the NBA in three-point shooting this season so far. And the Jazz's bench actually are the ones who kind of got them back in it. Jordan Clarkson and Niang were definitely putting in work, hitting three-pointers and just getting creative on offense, getting to the basket when they needed to as well. When Donovan Mitchell got back in towards the end of the quarter, he would continue his tear. He'd get his own rebound and finish strong against Steven Adams here with about 2:17 left in the game. For the last 2 minutes, the Jazz would go to a 2-3 zone, which would frustrate the Pelicans, and this would be an issue for them. Their offense had already began to slow in this quarter, and the last 2 minutes, they would not score. The Jazz would erase the 12-point deficit they had in the first quarter to actually lead at halftime 70-69 over the Pelicans. The Jazz closed the half like beasts. I mean, Steven Adams did have 11 boards in the first half, but besides that,
there wasn't much to say about the Pelicans other than they were still at that point shooting the three very well because they had made those 8 in the first quarter. But Donovan Mitchell really asserted himself, and with his 4 of 4 by himself from three-land, along with contributions from Jordan Clarkson, the Jazz were well on their way. As we picked it up in the third quarter, Donovan Mitchell would continue his hot shooting from three-point land. He would hit another one here with 11:20 left in the third quarter. That three would give him 600 and make him the fastest player to reach that number in terms of games in NBA history, beating the likes of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Damian Lillard. And someone you might not think is at the top of this list, but Buddy Hield was actually at the top of this list with 244 games to reach 600 three-pointers in his career. Donovan Mitchell would take the lead by doing this in only 240 games. So congratulations to Donovan Mitchell. But back to the game, Van Gundy, I think, was getting a little perturbed at Donovan Mitchell's excellence and was getting annoyed by it, and would actually end up getting a tech with 8:16 left in the third quarter after some beautiful point guard play from Mike Conley. At this point, Steven Adams would get a tech, Van Gundy would get a second tech and be ejected, and I really think that this just kind of illustrates the frustrations that the Pelicans were having at the time. After opening the game with one of their best quarters ever, they slowed down severely by the third quarter and would close the quarter with an 8-point deficit, down 100-92 to the Jazz. After starting off so hot, they only had a 23-point third quarter, and I don't know what Van Gundy said to him at halftime, but clearly it didn't have much of an effect. About a minute to go, you could see that the Pelicans were going a lot more to the isolation ball, and that just isn't really working for them. They got away from pushing the tempo, and that was probably because the Jazz were making shots and slowing them down defensively. And the Jazz weren't turning the ball over as much as they were in the first half. All of those combined meant for tough opportunities for the Pelicans to score, and they weren't hitting shots like they were in the first quarter, and that's why the Jazz were not only able to erase a 12-point deficit, but make it an 8-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And the fourth quarter would open with the Pelicans looking to hopefully have a comeback, but if that's what you were hoping for, I'd hate to disappoint you, but it would not happen. And then the Jazz would extend their lead to 14 with about 8 minutes left to play. The bad defense and bad shot selection of the Pelicans would continue. The Jazz would continue to be hot shooting-wise, and they would never look back from this point on. Unfortunately, the tempo did slow down for the Pelicans, and their struggles from the second and third quarter carried on into the fourth. But on a more positive note, for the Jazz, Mike Conley is looking a lot better in his Jazz uniform and a lot more comfortable in their offense. I had wondered why he had trouble coming to the team last year, but he really seems to have come into his own this year and is just looking a lot better and looking to be the ball handler that I think Donovan Mitchell would prefer to have on his team. Word on the block is that the Utah Jazz have one of the most extensive playbooks in the association, and perhaps that's why Conley had a little bit of an issue adjusting to the Utah Jazz. The game would finish 129-118 with the 11-point win for the Utah Jazz, extending their winning streak to 7 games now. Donovan Mitchell, another stellar performance with 36 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Jazz backcourt killed the Pelicans backcourt by about 30 points this game, and that's really going to be an issue for the Pelicans going forward. I think they have the front court players to get things done, but they really need their backcourt to produce more, either in the way of assists or points or both, but they need more activity from back there. The Jazz are one of 3 teams in the top 10 in terms of offensive and defensive efficiency, and they'll look to keep their 7-game win streak alive. Jordan Clarkson looked good. On the Pelican side, a bright note, Zion Williamson did have 27 points. He was getting his points in the paint as he usually does, and he also hit his first 3-pointer of the year. Last year, he started off by hitting 4 in his first game, but this game, this year it seems to have been a different story, and he's had a little bit tougher time from beyond the arc, but he did find his stride there tonight, at least getting off the schneid and getting his first ones in there. And lastly, Brandon Ingram, he would finish the game with 23 points. That would be somewhat of a disappointment considering he started with 16 in the first quarter. We really would like to see him at least get to 30 if he can put 16 in one quarter, especially in a game where they needed him to put more points in. You'd hope he'd have a little more. The Pelicans continue to be a team of talent, but not much consistency. Probably could use a veteran presence or two. It doesn't seem, I guess they do have J.J. Redick there, but it doesn't seem like they are finding the consistency that you would like to see with a team with that much talent. They look forward, though, and hopefully they'll find a way to clean that up going forward. Brandon Ingram, again, looked great. We just want him to do it for the entire game, not just one quarter. And J.J. Redick, unfortunately, his shooting will still continue for this season. I don't know if that's just because of the overall malaise for the Pelicans or not, but he has had a tough opening to this 2021 season. That'll do it for our games for tonight. Hope you enjoyed them as much as I did, and we look forward to seeing you again this weekend with some more NBA matchup action.
Thanks for watching. Above the Booth. Stay safe out there. It's crazy times. Make sure you text your grandmother. All right, see you. Peace.